One thing Georgia never does is sit still. A kid can be committed somewhere else, the graphic can be posted, the fan base can celebrate, and Kirby Smart still treats it like the first quarter, not the final whistle. That is exactly why this Aamaury Fountain story has people talking. According to Dogs 24/7, Georgia's one of the programs trying to flip the South Carolina commit, and this is not some casual check-in text situation. Dogs 24/7 reported that Georgia even sent Kirby Smart to Fountain's school earlier this year. When the head coach shows up in person for a player already pledged to an SEC rival, that tells you this is not background noise. That tells you Georgia sees something real, and Georgia thinks the door is still cracked open. And the player in the middle of it is not some random depth piece. He is a real target with real upside. Aamaury Fountain is a 2027 corner from Northside High School in Warner Robins, Georgia, and he committed to South Carolina on January 2. According to 247 Sports, he already had more than 20 offers when that decision happened, with schools like Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and Texas A&M all in the mix. That matters because it tells you South Carolina did not beat out a weak field. They beat out major brands. It also tells you why Georgia is still hanging around now. When a kid from inside your own state has that kind of offer sheet and that kind of frame, you do not just shrug and move on. What makes Fountain so interesting is that the numbers and the eye test both keep getting louder. Depending on which service you look at, he is listed a little differently. His 247 Sports player profile shows him at 6'1" and 171 pounds, while multiple recruiting reports this winter described him closer to 6'3" and around 182 to 190 pounds. That gap actually says something by itself. The body is changing, the profile was growing, and the industry is still trying to catch up. According to the Big Spurs March update on 247 Sports, he was sitting at number 197 overall in the 2027 class and number 28 among cornerbacks in the composite. Then rivals bumped him dramatically in February, placing him at number 25 nationally and number 4 at corner. That is not normal traffic. That is a player rising fast. That is why this feels bigger than one recruit. Georgia is not just checking on a 4-star because it has a free afternoon. Georgia is looking at a Georgia native from Warner Robins with SEC length, rising national value, and a recruitment that was already emotional before the commitment. According to UGA Sports on 3, Fountain called the Georgia offer a childhood dream. Read that again because that is the kind of phrase staffs file away and revisit later. South Carolina may have gotten the first yes, but Georgia has something a lot of schools do not. The home state pull, the childhood connection, and the chance to say this was always supposed to be your place. Those are powerful buttons to push when you are trying to flip a commitment.
There is also the simple reality that Georgia can recruit from a position of force. This program does not sell hope, it sells a machine. According to 247 Sports, Georgia's 2026 class finished with a number 8 recruit ranking, and the broader class sat number 11 overall when transfers were included. According to Georgia's official athletics site, Kirby Smart had produced 69 NFL draft picks through his first 9 seasons by the end of the 2025 draft. That is the kind of number parents hear. That's the kind of number defensive backs hear. Georgia can walk into a living room and talk about development, competition, playoff relevance, NFL traction, and staying home all in the same breath. For a rising corner like Fountain, that is not just a pitch, that is pressure. Now, to be fair, South Carolina is not going to hand this away. The Gamecocks have reasons to feel good too. Their 2027 class currently has only a few commits, which means a player like Fountain is not buried in the middle of a giant board. He is one of the faces of that class right now. According to 247 Sports, South Carolina's 2027 group had 3 commits, and Fountain was one of the headliners. On 3's South Carolina coverage also noted that he became the top-ranked player in that class after his rise in the rankings. So this is exactly why Georgia pushing here hits a nerve. It is not just trying to add a player, it is trying to grab one of the foundational pieces from a conference rival's class and bring him back across the state line. The timing is what makes this feel live instead of theoretical. Fountain is still publicly committed to South Carolina. Dogs 247 reported in January that he said he planned to stay firm with the Gamecocks, but that same coverage also made clear Georgia had not backed off. And the newer On3 headline this week says multiple teams are working to flip him. Florida has already gotten him back on campus after the commitment, according to 24/7 Sports. So the message here is obvious. This recruitment is moving, not frozen. Once that happens, Georgia does what Georgia always does. It keeps showing up. It keeps reminding the player what Athens looks like, what the roster looks like, what the NFL board looks like, and what it means to wear the G if you grew up in that state. And honestly, that may be the sharpest part of the whole play. Georgia is not trying to flip a player from 3 time zones away, where the battle becomes purely theoretical. This is a kid from Warner Robins. This is in-state ground. Georgia knows the school, knows the region, knows the pressure points, and knows how to recruit homegrown defensive backs with size. Rivals evaluation on On3 praised Fountain's size, length, fluidity, and coverage ability, calling him a natural mover who flips his hips with ease. That description sounds exactly like the kind of corner Georgia wants in modern SEC football. Long arms, recovery speed, coverage range, a body that can keep changing. So when people ask whether this is just another rumor, I do not see it that way. I see Georgia identifying a player whose value is climbing and deciding the original commitment date does not mean the battle is over.
What happens next is where this gets fun, and maybe uncomfortable if you are wearing garnet. If South Carolina holds on, it will have fought off one of the most relentless recruiting operations in the country. If Georgia pulls this off, it will feel very Georgia. Aggressive, calculated, and a little cold-blooded. Take a top in-state defensive back, weaken a rival, strengthen your own future secondary, and remind everybody that a commitment in January is not the same thing as signing day. That is how programs build control. So drop your take in the comments. Is Georgia being smart here, or is this the kind of recruiting pressure that makes the SEC brutal? And if you are a Bulldogs fan, tell me straight, do you think Aamaury Fountain ends up staying with South Carolina, or do you think he eventually comes home to Athens?